No one knows the way but your damn self. People try to lend a hand but they can't help. You gotta pick and choose, we are wearing different shoes. Be a bigger you, go and get it, never hands out.
What's going on, guys? Justin Murphy here, Justin Murphy Nutrition. Really just want to take a deep dive today and dive into one of the more popular topics here in the nutrition space, which is keto, the ketogenic diet. Here we are, it's 2018. Ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting, those are probably the two biggest that we're hearing right now. Those are the most popular fad diets, if you will. So let's break it down, guys. Let's go into this. Look, I'm not for or against keto. I think like any other diet out there, there's no perfect diet, right? There's no one size fits all model for everybody. And so, really what we're looking into is, okay, let's break down keto, right? The ketogenic diet. What does it consist of? What is it? And then let's start to look into, who is it for? What are the populations that it was meant for? What are the applications that make sense? Because keto is great for some people and it's terrible for other people, just like any other diet. So cool, let's dive into it. So ketogenic diet, what is the ketogenic diet? Ketogenic diet, guys, is very, 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 very similar in a lot of ways, and then different as well, but similar in a lot of ways to what most of y'all probably heard was the Atkins diet from back in the day. So it's essentially it's a very low carb diet. It's actually not low carb. It would actually be called like no carb, right? So when we start to look into the percentages here, from a macronutrient breakdown, okay, with the ketogenic diet, we're looking at about 70% or so of the total calories for the day coming from fats. With that, about 20% is coming from protein intake. And then about 5% or less is coming from carbohydrates. Now, I don't know if any of y'all, understand the concept of 5% or less of your intake being carbohydrates, but guys, what we're talking about here is like, if you eat like one piece of fruit, you're gonna go over that number. And so, you'll hear the talks of ketosis, right? And making that shift from your body being able to essentially be fueled by carbohydrates and making that transition into being fueled primarily through fats. So the process of that, guys, is extremely hard to maintain for the rest of your life. And that's, I think, where we get the most kickback with the keto diet is like, is it really sustainable? For most people, probably not. Again, this means there's no such thing as going on vacations and enjoying yourself. This means that there's no such thing as birthday cake, ice cream, cheat nights, like ever, right? Because anytime you have any of that, you're not doing keto, right? You're getting out of ketosis, and that's ruining what is trying to be accomplished. So in terms of sustainability, probably not going to be the easiest diet to follow. And again, guys, I think with what we're trying to look into here is we want consistency, right? We want things to be as easy as possible. So why would you pick one of the most extreme diets to try to follow? You're probably gonna lose weight, right? You're cutting carbohydrates. So essentially all that's happening is if we have carbs, fats, and proteins, you're removing carbs. You're just going from a certain calorie number and lowering down to whatever calorie you get to, right? So through the conversations that we've talked about on previous videos, how do you establish, fat loss, weight loss? Well, you have to be in a calorie deficit. So if I'm eating 2,500 calories of fats, carbs, and proteins, and 40% of that, 50% of that is coming from carbs, well, I remove the whole entire carbohydrate group. Now we're talking about basically cutting our calorie intake by a third or in half. Of course you're gonna lose weight, guys, okay? So, again, when we're looking into this, it's just really it's very important to understand what a true ketogenic diet actually is. Understanding like what it takes to actually be in ketosis and actually sustainably be in ketosis to reap the benefits of what the diet is trying to do. Let's look into who this diet is mainly for, though. Guys, the ketogenic diet, again, removing carbohydrates. Carbohydrates for most people are their main fuel source, right? It's gonna be the thing that helps them work out and recover from workouts. It's going to be the thing that really just it's like the gas. It's like the fuel to your car. Okay. And so when we start to look into special populations, well, people with epilepsy, people with neurodegenerative diseases, these are going to be the people that actually do really, really well on a ketogenic diet. There's a lot of research out there, especially in epilepsy, and the success that they've had there. So special populations, absolutely. There are 100% situations where ketogenic diets would be the best and most appropriate diet for that person. Other people are people that are just very inactive, right? So if you're somebody that's not doing a lot of workouts, if you're somebody that just maybe does, goes for walks and does yoga and stretches and does like mobility work, or maybe you're just not active at all. It's a whole other story, right? But this would be a situation, right? Because again, carbohydrates are fuel, right? They're fuel for your activity. They're fuel for your workouts. And so, if you're somebody that doesn't really have a high step count, a high activity level, if you're somebody that's really just sitting down all day long, who isn't doing any type of high intensity exercise or any exercise at all, you're going to need, probably less carbohydrates for the most part. And so you should be perfectly fine. You're not going to have the repercussions of taking carbohydrates out when you're doing something like high intensity exercise. In that situation, it would be terrible, because now we're removing the fuel source, right, to fuel these workouts. So eventually we're going to start to feel tired, lethargic. We're not going to recover well, etc. So for the ketogenic diet, guys, if there's something going on from a medical condition standpoint, or if you're somebody that's just really, really, really not active at all, doesn't like working out, maybe or does different types of workouts like yoga, a little less intensity, you're definitely going to be able to get away with doing a lower carb or even more of a ketogenic diet. Again, I would not, unless it is something, medically induced, I think, again, trying to look into playing the long game and consistency and sustainability. I would really suggest, maybe not going to an extreme like keto, maybe lower carb, sure, if you want, but going all the way to keto is going to be really, really, really hard to sustain for the rest of your life. And there could be long-term, risks to being on a ketogenic diet long-term. So that's that. Another big piece is on, in terms of the application side, guys, we have to realize the ketogenic diet right now is extremely popular, and it's getting thrown around and used in populations that should not be using it. Basically, they're taking information and they're applying it with the wrong application. All right. And so what I mean by this is CrossFit, Orange Theory, spin, anything that is high intensity exercise, it means that it is glycolytic in nature, which means it's fueled by glucose, which means it's fueled by carbohydrates. All right. So again, if most of us put gas in our car, right? So if I was to say, hey, you know what? You're not allowed to put gas in your car this week. What would happen? You'd run out of gas, right? You basically wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Your car essentially, is unable to be used, right? It has low energy, right? It doesn't have fuel. It can't do things for you. It can't take you places, etc. Our body's no different, right? And so if we're doing something, I see this all the time in the high intensity spaces, especially in the CrossFit space. If you remove carbohydrates, you might feel okay in the beginning. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you might feel like crap, but there's some people that feel okay. But I promise you, after a while, once those glycogen stores start to deplenish, once they start to deplete, after time, you're gonna start having low energy. You're gonna start feeling like crap. Your sleep is going to start being affected. Your recovery is gonna be bad. Your performance is gonna start to go down. All of these things, because again, the exercise that you chose to do, which is CrossFit, which is spin, which is Orange Theory, requires carbohydrates. It is glycolytic in nature, which means it's fueled by carbs. The number one fuel source for these workouts is carbohydrates. So, guys, do not remove carbohydrates from your diet and try to do low carb or keto, if you're sitting here doing high intensity exercise 3 days a week, 4 or 5, 6 days a week, that's not the smartest way to go about, you know, if your goals are aesthetics, right? It's not the smartest way to go about it. You can still lose body fat, you can still make amazing body composition changes with including carbohydrates in your diet. And especially if you're doing high intensity exercise, I would highly advise it. What it's gonna do for you is it's gonna allow the process to be so much more manageable. You're gonna actually feel good while you're changing body composition and improving, and you know, your overall being, right? And the way you feel, the way you look, the way you perform. It's gonna make the process a lot easier. Your meals are gonna be a lot more balanced. You're not gonna sit here and have to get stuck on something, you know, like being scared of carbohydrates or shying away from them. Guys, if nothing else, at least in your pre and post workout meals, we've got to make sure that we're incorporating those carbohydrates pre and post workout. That's what's going to allow you to feel the best. That's what's going to allow you to look the best. And that's what's going to allow you to perform the best. We all know that you can do keto or low carb or cut out, you know, some major food group or follow some crazy strict diet for 30 days. We get it. You've been doing that your whole life. Okay? Now it's over. We're not doing that anymore. Let's not jump around. Let's find not a diet, but a sustainable approach to freaking crushing life and living your best life. That's the goal of this all, right? Why do we want to make things more complicated than it has to be? You don't have to do keto. You don't have to do low carb. You don't have to do any diet under the sun. What we need to do is we need to prioritize our own bodies, our health, the one body that we get, and realize that, guys, like, we got one opportunity, right? That's it. Just one. You got one life. You don't get another one. You don't get another body. You can't just go buy a new digestive system at the store. Guys, everything that you put into your body makes an effect on how you feel, on how you look, and how you perform. Okay? Don't starve yourself from any one food. There's no such thing as good or bad. Find what works for you. Fuel yourself properly. Okay, if you have any issues, any trouble trying to figure out this whole nutrition thing, then guys, shoot us a message, shoot us an email, hit us up on social media. We'd love to help. And like always, we're here to filter out the BS in the nutrition industry, one day at a time. That's keto, guys. Let me know if y'all have any questions. Comment below.